Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with the first look at the spoilers from War of the Spark. So instead of just reading these cards, I'm going to give my analysis on these cards and how they affect the various formats, especially looking at standard. So we have some key mechanics that have been spoiled through the War of the Spark, one being a mass, which puts an army counter into play and then puts +1/+1 counters on it, and then various spells that actually work with buffing up your army tokens. There's also Proliferate, being a mechanic that is coming back, and we have Affinity, which I don't know if Affinity is actually going to be part of this set. However, the Tezzeret Master of the Bridge, I do believe, is the buy box promo. I do believe that was leaked. So we'll get to those mechanics here in a second. We also have a Planeswalker in every pack, and it is confirmed that there is uncommon Planeswalkers. So there's Mythics, Rares, and Uncommons, and they are all going to be in the Planeswalker slot. So I'm pretty sure that these packs are going to be able to have 3 Mythics in a pack. 1 foil mythic, 1 planeswalker mythic, and the normal mythic. We saw this in transform sets before, and we saw this in other sets where there's a slot that is dedicated to a mechanic. So that's pretty interesting. You could get one of those packs that just has the 3 mythics, and that's going to be pretty crazy in the sealed environment. All right, so let's just start down the spoiler list here. The first one being Liliana, Dreadhorde General. It's a 6 mana, 6 loyalty planeswalker. They added the planeswalkers having static abilities, which is kind of cool, because I think in the past there should have been some of the planeswalkers that had static abilities. It makes for a very fun, or at least synergistic, aspect to the planeswalkers. So Liliana will have, whenever a creature you control dies, draw a card. A lot of the aristocrats type builds in EDH are going to absolutely love this card. I have a Tezzeret deck, I have a Noth of the Guilt Leaf that both work on cards dying, and you get some, this is the Smothering Abomination ability basically on a planeswalker. So pretty cool planeswalker there. The -1, or that's a +1, excuse me, it just creates a 2/2 black zombie creature, and the -4 is each player sacrifices 2 creatures. So I think this is a pretty decent card. I would have preferred it seeing each player sacrifices 2 creatures or planeswalkers other than non-Liliana on there, but maybe that would have made this card too wordy, because we are looking for an Eldest Reborn kind of replacement after post-rotation. I think Liliana Dreadhorde General actually does fit that slot. It's a pretty decent mid-range finisher, or at least just gaining a lot of value by creating 2/2 black zombie creatures. Whenever a creature you control dies, you draw a card. So if you have to sacrifice the 2 creatures when you cast Liliana, you're at least going to get some value off of them. There are already a lot of cards in standard that work off dying. So think of Orzhov, in this case, like the Tide Takers. And I think that, yeah, like a black-white token's like more of a mid-range version could be viable post-rotation. You have Kaya's Wrath, that's another sweeper, so you go Kaya's Wrath into Liliana, and I think that you've done a good job taking any sort of like Gruul mid-range deck out, and then you can start getting that value off of Liliana and just your small creatures. The -9 is each opponent chooses a permanent they control of each permanent type and sacrifices the rest, which is okay. If you've been using the -4, it's going to be hard to get up to the -9, but if you just swap down the Liliana, do some pluses, proliferate it a couple times, then that's a pretty decent ability. But I think where this is mainly going to come into effect is just the sacrificing the 2 creatures, then start creating black zombie creature tokens, and then having a sort of like a gating effect that will take over the game. Tezzeret Master of the Bridge is the buy box promo. I do believe, yeah, it does say 275 out of 264. So this is the buy box, and it does say buy box promo right on it. So this is another extremely powerful buy box. This should make the War of the Spark boxes, at least the pre-order boxes, just sell through the roof. Tezzeret is going to be very, very powerful in EDH. It does seem likely that this is powerful enough for constructed formats. It is a little bit steep for modern at 6 mana. It does have 5 loyalty, but the pluses are quite relevant with Tezzeret. It deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of artifacts you control, and then you gain X life. And so it's going to be X damage. Okay, so it's just going to read your artifacts, and then that's what X is going to be. It's not going to gain life equal to the life lost by opponents, which would be nice for Commander. But Commander, this is going to be a very, very good finisher in the Affinity black-blue builds, and there's tons of them. There are a lot of Commanders that already work with this. You got to think of all the black and blue commanders that have come out in the past few years. Like Brea had some that worked with artifacts, and I mean there are plenty of decks you can just throw in a ton of artifacts and make this relevant. The return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand is also very relevant. With just -3, you get value immediately if you don't want to use the +2, and then if you can protect Tezzeret up to the -8, exile the top 10 cards of your library and put all artifact cards from among them on the battlefield. So like I said, I do believe that this is standard playable, which is quite awkward for the buy box promos. It's another Nexus of Fate where the only way you can get these is buying a box. According to the numbers, though, that these will have more copies in existence than any other mythic. According to Mark Rosewater, buy box promos do have, when you take the entire print run, they do have more total cards from the buy box than any other mythic does. So keep that in mind. Let's go on to Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. So it's a 4-mana Planeswalker for loyalty. If you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game. So you have the Laboratory Maniac type card on Jace, which is, we all know how good Laboratory Maniac is. Will it take the slot of Lab Maniac and ad nauseum? Probably not, as that card is a little easier on the mana. You could see it, though. And the +1 is target player puts the top 2 cards of their library into the graveyard and draw a card. That's pretty good because it's a 4-mana walker that you can draw a card with a plus ability. However, you're still going to have to figure out a way to protect Jace. Where I see this is in mirrors. Control mirrors, I think this is going to be a really, really good card. It's a finisher by milling cards. It's also a finisher by, or a draw engine by drawing a card per turn. So not too shabby for 4 mana. The -8 is draw 7 cards. Then, if your library has no cards in it, you win the game. Isn't that already says if you draw a card while you're... Okay, so if you draw 7 cards, then, see, it gives you a little bit better win con right there. You don't have to then go to your draw, figure out another way to draw if your library somehow has 1 card left in it. All right, so draw some cards, and then if your library has no cards, then you win the game. All right, pretty decent little -8. I don't know. This is just really in here for like the Phyrexia Arena type ability of getting a little bit of value off of milling your opponent per turn and drawing a card. It definitely is playable. Like I said, in mirrors, in control mirrors, it's definitely a very playable card. Let's go on to Ajani the Greathearted. Ajani Greathearted is 4 mana. Its +1 is you gain 3 life. Creatures you control have vigilance, and the -2 is put a +1 counter on each creature you control and a loyal counter on each other planeswalker you control. So this is a card that I definitely do see viable in Celestia tokens with March of the Multitudes and Trostani. It's a decent little curve. Unfortunately, History of Benalia will be out of the format post-rotation. Pre-rotation, though, History of Benalia curving into Ajani is pretty good. You'll have 2 2/2 tokens. You'll immediately be able to make them 3/3s. The next turn, they will, with Vigilance, so you'll be able to attack in and protect Ajani. Then the following turn, you'll be able to -2 Ajani again, and then pump up all of your cards. Maybe at this point put a Trostani out. You can see that this is a very, very powerful card. Then you can start plussing it, so it can eventually go for +1 from counters again if they have other planeswalkers. So far, Huatli isn't one that, or the other Ajani actually is pretty decent with this as well. Not on curve, though. There will be a few planeswalkers I do think could pair with this, but Celestia Tokens, I think this card wants to be in Celestia Tokens as it's built right now. One of the things that Celestia Tokens does have is the go wide option. They have the pump through things like the Venerated Loxodon, but I'm thinking Ajani actually is something to be quite welcome in that deck. We have the 2/2 that puts out a 1/1 every time it becomes tapped. This is another way to make those bigger, and again, it pairs pretty well with the curve we already have going with Celestia Tokens. If nothing else, you can gain 3 life, which is also relevant in the mono red format that we have going on in the arena. All right, Vraska's Swarm's Eminence, 4 mana with the hybrid black and green. Whenever a creature you control with Death Touch deals damage to a player or planeswalker, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature, and create a 1/1 black assassin creature token with Death Touch. Whenever this creature deals damage to a planeswalker, destroy that planeswalker. So you can immediately throw out a 1/1 Death Toucher to protect Vraska. However, Vraska, you can only use it twice, and then it gets kind of weird with the static. You'll be at 1 loyalty, 2 assassins, black assassin Death Touchers that possibly could get bigger. But then you'd have to find ways to then pump the loyalty up with Vraska. Again, that's where Ajani or Proliferate comes into effect, or simply just finding a way to flicker it would be another way. However, this is it's uncommon, so you got to think the power level is quite awkward. In Limited, this is going to be very, very good. It does seem like it is constructed playable, but it has to be in the right scenario. Right now, we already have that slot at the 4-drop being very, very, I mean, we have another Vraska in this slot already, and it's a pretty clogged slot. All right, so another uncommon one being Obnixilis the Hate Twisted. This is a 5 mana for a 5 loyalty. Whenever an opponent draws a card, Obnixilis the Hate Twisted deals 1 damage to that player. Nice little ability in, once again, mirrors, like control mirrors. This could come in and might be able to do some... It's quite awkward, though, with a -2, though. Destroy target creature, its controller draws 2 cards. You can destroy your own creatures, draw cards in an Aristocrats type build, I guess. However, and then you can use it to get rid of pesky creatures, but your opponent will be drawing 2 cards off of it. This is so far the Planeswalker I like the least for at least its activated Planeswalker ability. The drawing a card, every time it draws a card, deals 1 damage is quite nice. Again, there's no way to pump up the loyalty to Obnixilis, so it's just one you have to... I wonder if these are the ones that they're signaling are going to die, because they have no way to plus. Is this just a huge... basically, so Vraska's dead, Obnixilis dead. We'll have to wait and see. Tibalt dead too, with Tibalt Rakish Instigator. A 3 mana for a 5 loyalty. Your opponent can't gain life. Very, very good sideboard card for red. Right there, this is something that I think red does want in their sideboard. And you do have the ability to create 1/1 red devil creature tokens. When this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. That's actually pretty good to get 2 of them out. You still have a 1 loyalty planeswalker that they have to deal with before they can start gaining life. And again, it's relevant in a format with like Tide Takers and hitting off other 1 toughness creatures. Legion's Landing, of course, is in the format. Other than this is like in the same slot that like Chain Whirler. Again, this looks more to me to be a sideboard card than anything that goes in the main at the moment. That could change though. All right, so let's go on to the Bolas' Citadel. This is a 6 mana, 3 black and 3. You can look at the top card of the library and cast the top card of your library by paying life rather than paying the converted mana cost. Very, very powerful if you're a go low type deck, or what I kind of like this right now is even in just the Golgari Explorer, because you can gain back that life. Jadelight Ranger and it costs you 3, but you have a Wild Growth Walker out, then you can gain that life back, and you can just pretty much go nuts with this card, with the Explorer type cards, because it's, again, with Wild Growth Walker, they're going to be mitigating the life loss of casting these cards, and they're also going to be able to set up getting the lands off the top of your library into your hand, and then setting up other cards that you then want to cast. So I think that's where this card shines at the moment, is in a deck like that. It does seem to have a high mana cost to get going at 6. But, I mean, this usually the Golgari decks, the Explorer decks, that they want some sort of finisher, Vivian in this slot a lot of times to give you that card advantage. And they can utilize their Explorer cards quite well to just give the tempo that they need. The sacrificing 10 non-land permanents for each opponent losing 10 life is also very relevant if you can get your opponent down to that and you've explored a lot. There are a few other cards that could work with this, with creating treasure tokens, like the Pitiless Plunderer. Every time a creature dies, you get a treasure token. Could actually go in effect with this, or just other tokens that Golgari has ran some in the past. We have like other ways we could utilize putting out tokens from, splashing into, at that point, Abzan and like March of the Multitudes. I've seen that happen before in Explore decks. So there are a lot of things that could happen with this sacrifice 10 non-land permanents. However, even just with Explorer, like I said, when you start chaining it off with Wild Growth Walker, you could easily get 10 permanents on the battlefield. I had an old Explorer deck with Ronus' Monument. You can go check out my channel from about a year ago, where Ronus' Monument played a very similar effect as Bolas' Citadel, where you just continue to go off the top of your library. It was Vizier the Menandria with Ronus' Monument, and it reduced the casting cost, and then you also could play cards off the top of your library. And this, just with Wild Growth Walker, also does seem to be that same sort of effect. Again, Explore, Wild Growth Walker, Bolas' Citadel, extremely good combo going on. All right, so we have the Widespread Brutality, 2 red, a black, and a colorless, amass 2. Then the army you amass deals damage equal to its power to each non-army creature. To amass 2, put 2/+1 counters on an army you control. If you don't control an army, create a 0/0 black zombie army. So at worst, you are putting a 2/2 zombie that is then going to do 2 damage to all other non-army creatures. So this is actually a pretty good answer to go wide after the rotation. Sometimes 4 is quite awkward. Like, you'd have to have another army. Like, where I do think this is pre-rotation, though, is you could, it could curve with the +1/+1 zombie lord we already have to do 3 damage to everything. Of course, then you wipe your own zombies because it's non-armies it's dealing damage, not non-zombies. However, that could be a better board wipe. If you do have another army out, or like I said, any way to pump this up, it could end up doing more damage. However, again, this is going to be quite reasonable for a sweeper with a lot of toughness creatures being 2. A lot of Celestia cards will still be 2, and it will still leave back some sort of value afterwards of having a 2/2 zombie. If you create another one, like a widespread brutality after widespread brutality, it's going to be doing 4 damage then to creatures, non-army creatures. All right, Invade the City, a 3 mana, 1, a blue, and a red, amass X, where X is the number of instant sorceries in your graveyard. This one actually seems pretty good. Because in any sort of deck, we already have a home for Invade the City, where you're casting a lot of instances or sorceries, like you got to think of the Arclight Phoenix, where you're casting a ton. You have 10 in the graveyard. Any of the Enigma Drakes and Crackling Drakes, we already know how easy it is to get a big... So this almost feels like a third Drake. It doesn't have flying. It doesn't read after you cast instant sorceries. It will be just when you do cast it. But a 3 mana for at least a 3/3, 4/4, 5/5 doesn't seem too terrible. And this is also pretty good too because it gets above the 4 toughness, so it will get above Lava Coil. So if you're worried about like Lava Coil, killing your Drakes over and over, Invade the City could give you another out towards that. Again, it doesn't have evasion. It is sorcery. There are some awkward things about this card, but it does seem quite reasonable as another Drake. Of course, we are losing Enigma Drake post-rotation unless he gets reprinted. So in Drakes, where we still have the Arclight Phoenix, we still have Goblin Electromancer, this could be the replacement for the Enigma Drake. So we have the Dreadhorde Invasion. 2 mana. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and amass 1. Whenever a zombie token you control with power 6 or greater attacks, it gains lifelink until end of turn. So this is kind of a Bitter Blossom wannabe. Doesn't put out a flyer at evasive, but it does actually make that token bigger and bigger and bigger, which could actually be quite awkward because if you don't control one, you create one. You don't get the option. So it'll be a 1/1 the first time it comes out, then a 2/2 the next turn, then a 3/3 the next turn. And if they do kill the tokens or do have some sort of aristocrat type build, this is the ability to then eat those per turn. So it is good on that axis, but yeah, this does feel more awkward than Bitter Blossom for sure. It's just not going to go in any deck at that point. There are a lot of token-based decks though at the moment. There are a bunch of cards right now that actually do work off tokens dying and just having a creature out. Again, this can be a win con. It does get bigger, but at a very, very slow rate. So, and then it will get lifelink, though, if it does get power 6 or greater. Is this working like a zombies build? Probably not. I'm not sure. I'll definitely check it out. It does seem like zombie tribal will work, though. There are a lot of zombies coming into this effect. One of my problems with my zombie deck at the moment is there just wasn't enough zombies to quite push us over the top. And now with this set, though, definitely. Herald of the Dreadhorde. Speaking of a zombie, a 3/2. When it dies, you amass 2. This is actually very reasonable common. You should be picking this up very heavily, I would assume, in limited. A 3/2 for 4 is perfectly acceptable, and leaving back a 2/2, that's very, very good. Tibalt's Rager. 2 mana for a 1/2. When it dies, it deals 1 damage to any target, and it has the pumpable ability. Again, this is a decent little uncommon. It gets value off of dying. It's a 1/2 that can be pumped. Not a bad card whatsoever. Paradise Druid. This is going to be the F&M promo. So Paradise Druid has hexproof as long as it's untapped. Unfortunately, it still dies to Chain Whirler. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool by tapping it. So that's the problem. I wish it was a 1/2, not a 2/1, I think. I don't know. Having this reduced Galta better than a 1/2, possibly. Adds any mana of any color, which is nice. We do have a couple of those in the format at the moment, though. Yeah, it's an elf. Works an elf. Tribals. The hexproof is going to be relevant, can't be bolted, so Wizard Lightning shocked, but Chain Whirler is still going to keep this in check a little bit. Post rotation, I do like this card. It will probably be our go-to mana dork at that point, of especially curving into a 4-drop, so 2 into a 4, and then not having this die to a removal spell. Like, it even gets around the cards like the Deadweights and the Sapperling, the one that gets -1/1, puts a Sapperling. Hexproof is relevant. Once it's tapped, though, this Hexproof gets less relevant, but they're trying to make it so you at least will set up 1 turn of being able to add this for mana. Now, Flux Channeler, this is the one where you get the Proliferate. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Proliferate. That is huge. Speaking of a nice little combo already, look at the Invade the City. So Invade the City has counters that then can be proliferated. So this could be the way that you do get your card a little bit bigger after you've cast this in the Flux Channeler. Then every opt afterwards will actually proliferate and make the amass bigger. Works with planeswalkers. Your ops become very powerful with Teferi now. Extremely powerful, as Teferi can get up to ultimate very, very quickly. So I don't think underestimate the Flux Channeler. I don't know if people are going to be running that in those particular decks, but yeesh. That is a card that can get out of control. There are other, right now, decks that have +1 counters like Simic. A lot of cards, your Hydroid Krasis, get bigger and bigger with the Flux Channeler. A very, very acceptable card with Proliferate for just 3 mana. No Escape. Counter target creature or planeswalker spell. If that spell is countered, exile it instead of putting its owner's graveyard. Scry 1. Very decent little counter spell. Would be better with if we have any sort of recurring planeswalkers or recurring creatures from your graveyard. There are a number of them right now in the meta. There's the one out of Dimir that I think it's a lot better. The Blood Vampire. It's a vampire that comes back with Surveil. Yeah, I think it's better once Chain Whirler's out of the format and a lot of the 1 damage spells are out of the format. So we could see No Escape being a way to actually take care of those type of cards. There's also the one that came out of the Orzhov or the Rakdos mechanic of coming back. The No Escape becomes relevant. It also is a way to counter if they hardcast the Arclight Phoenix. That's another thing. But mainly though, there aren't that many relevant cards that are coming back in the format. Ravnica at War. So I guess Fine Finality too. That's another way to get rid of something with being able to get back cards with Fine Finality. No Escape's actually pretty decent. I don't know if it's main board. We have Essence Scatter at the moment. Yeah, I don't know. Great card though. Ravnica at War, 4 mana, exile all multicolored permanents. Great little sideboard card against decks that use a lot of them. Multicolored permanents. Vraska's Finisher. When Vraska's Finisher enters the battlefield, destroy target creature or planeswalker and opponent control that was dealt damage this turn. This is a great little card in Limited. Ignite the Beacon. Search your library for up to 2 planeswalker cards. Reveal them, put them in your hand. Instant Speed. I think that's quite relevant because you can instant speed this and find you can find Teferi. And you can find some other card that pairs right now. You can find Karn and Teferi. That's a decent little package. Or, any other planeswalker they're running at this point. Like, you look back in Jeskai, that's a Ral and a Teferi that grab with Ignite the Beacon. Not a bad card. And you can actually get just 2 Teferis. Look at that. Yep, that is something you can do. Time Warp. A 5 mana board wipe, but you get to return a creature you control to its owner's hand and destroy all creatures. Not a bad card if you are running the occasional control deck that is running like a couple creatures in there, especially some powerful creatures. Time Wipe, I think, would be better if it was instant speed. Instant speed board wipe would probably need to be 6 mana though. However, Sorcery, it's decent. We have the couple of the board wipes rotating out, and so this for Azorius could definitely be a card that can go in that place, in place of those ones rotating out. Obnicolas Cruelty, 3 mana, target creature gets -5/-5, and if it would die, exile instead. This is going to be a very good card in Standard with dealing with Arclight Phoenixes. It hits the Drakes, it hits any other 5 toughness creatures, so right now that's like Lyra, post-rotation, that's the other angel out of, can't think of the name at the moment, out of Boros. There are a lot of 5 toughness creatures. Now 6 toughness creatures are going to be a lot better because of this card, because Obnicolas Cruelty cannot take care of them. So keep that in mind. We're going to have both the Lava Coil check of 4 toughness, and now we're going to have Obnicolas Cruelty at the 5 toughness. Both of them also do exile, so we are getting some ways to deal with the pesky Arclight Phoenixes or other cards that do recur. Relentless Advance, 4 mana, amass 3. So this is just a filler card, puts out a 3/3. Thinking Proliferate is going to be more of a card, or just a mass is going to be more of a mechanic. This is going to be pretty good and limited. You're not going to be picking these up highly unless you do have a synergy that works with this. Ajani's Pridemate is coming back as a different artwork. Unfortunately, it's coming back as an uncommon again, so I don't get my Pauper wish of this being playable in Pauper. Womp, womp, womp. Ajani's Pridemate, though, however, every time it does see Standard, it does see play. We still have some good synergy cards. Healer's Hawks into Ajani's Pridemate still works. We are rotating out some of Ajani's Pridemate's favorite cards like Legion's Landing and the other cat, the one that if you control 3 or more creatures. However, there will probably be enough to make this work. Enter Planar Beacon. Whenever you cast a Planeswalker spell, you gain 1 life. You can add for a colorless, and you can, 1, add 2 mana of different color, spend this ability only to cast Planeswalkers. Where I think this one is kind of interesting is, I wonder if we'll see some sort of like Eldrazi taxes that can now splash for some decent Planeswalkers like Liliana. Like, it does seem pretty good to be running a Liliana in Eldrazi taxes. And yeah, and same thing, even the green-red Eldrazi deck, like, this doesn't seem too terrible with a card like Domri, like old school Domri, because that's one of the problems of the green-red version is it starts to run out of steam. You have the Reality Smashers, you have your other cards that Thought-Knot Seers that give you a lot of pressure on your opponent, but maybe like a card like Domri would fit into that. It is different colors though, so it is different colors. That would work with cards like Nissa, cards like Domri that have multiple different colors in their converted mana cost. So it does look a little bit more awkward with, like Sorin actually seems pretty good in Eldrazi taxes. Yeah, just as creating some more pressure. I don't know. I like this card. I like this card, how it works with Eldrazi, and then the ability to play Planeswalkers with Eldrazi's. All right, so Emergent Zone. This is another one that works with Eldrazi's, adding the colorless mana to your mana pool. Sacrifice Emergent Zone, you may cast spells as though they had flash. This is kind of cool with Thought-Knot Seer. You can do it in the response of a, basically turn it into a Vendilion click at that point. Yeah, pretty cool card with Emergent Zone. Probably will see some play in various formats, as it's a land with an upside. So, yeah, just strictly better than a waste at that point. Other than waste doesn't get hit by Blood Moon, I guess. And just some basic lands. So all in all, these are some pretty powerful cards that have been printed in War of the Spark. Seems in some interesting mechanics with a mass, and the Planeswalkers having abilities, and Proliferate coming back. So it should be a very, very popular set for Commander, which will help its value. There are already some Commander cards here that I think are going to be very highly sought after. So I am expecting this set to hold a very, very high price tag out the gates. In fact, we could see this being the most sold set. It's coming at an awkward time, though, because traditionally spring and summer sets are the sets that are sold the least. It just has to deal with how Magic really works. It seems like Magic sells the most in the fall, and I think it has a lot to do with people getting back into school, meeting up with friends that they haven't seen over the summer, and it's just that time period where gaming is just usually at its peak. Summer, there's other activities. Fall through winter is the gaming season. So we haven't really seen summer sets and spring sets in the past sell like through the roof. Was Dominaria, was that a summer set though? Because that was one that was sold. Currently, right now, the most sold set is still Khans of Tarkir. So this could be the one that breaks Khans of Tarkir, mainly for the fact that we're seeing a huge influx of people into paper, mainly because of the popularity of Arena. The Mythic Championship, even though I didn't personally like how it played with the best of one format with 2 decks, did have the highest Twitch stream count of all time. It also has some of the highest playbacks of highlights and things like that. It also did a very good job showcasing it for once at a massive event like the PAX East. And I think it's going to lead to a lot of players coming into Arena, and then naturally will come over to paper. So I think the set will be sold quite highly, and I think that this is a good time to really get into the Commander format. So that's more of a Rogue Market or a Market Monday topic. I guess I'll save that for tomorrow and talk about it with a Market Monday of, why like all my eggs are in one basket at the moment, and that is called Commander, where I think it's just a very, very smart place to park your money. And I think we're going to see a massive, massive gain in Commander cards this summer, definitely following up to the Commander precons that are coming out. I'm also anticipating we're probably going to have a Commander, what did they call the where they take the 4 decks from the past, and they'll do another one of those. So there will be a lot of influx of those decks coming back in, which will also lead to people buying the cards that need to go into those decks. So that'll be a whole Market Monday topic for tomorrow. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. This has been Kevin with Rogue Deck Builder. Thanks for watching.